Another Russian warship has been wiped off the map courtesy of Ukrainian drones. But this wasn't just any warship. It was an exceptionally valuable and rare vessel, and Russia's naval forces will be a whole lot weaker without it. The incident occurred on September 10 in the Black Sea, not far from the Russian port city of Nova Rosisk, and was reported by Ukraine's main Directorate of Intelligence (GUR) on Telegram. GUR special forces successfully hit a ship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet near Nova Rosisk. On September 10, 2025, in the Black Sea, special forces of the military district of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine tracked down and successfully attacked another expensive military target of the aggressor state of Russia, a ship of the MPS Buouyan-M multi-purpose vessel project from the enemy Black Sea Fleet. The Telegram post was accompanied by a video showing the first-person view of the drone in flight as it hones in and draws closer to its target, before eventually landing a direct hit against the ship's bridge, where the most important and valuable navigational systems and communications equipment is stored. As the Telegram post notes, the ship in question was an MPS Buouyan-M, measuring up at approximately 73 meters or 240 feet in length, and with a molded breadth of 16.6 meters or 54 feet, the MPS Buouyan-M boasts a sea endurance of 20 days and top speeds of around 15 knots or 17 miles per hour. Up to 20 standard crew members typically live on board, and the ship also has space for 12 more special staff members and up to 69 additional people. It's classed as an ice-strengthened ship, meaning that it has a particularly strong and powerful design to be able to safely navigate icy seas, and can be used for various purposes and missions, including salvage and rescue. The one that Ukraine took out was believed to be carrying out reconnaissance for the Russians, as reported in the GUR's Telegram post. The ship of the MPS Buouyan-M project is equipped with diving complexes, remote-controlled devices, side-scan sonar, and RER means. It can be used for bottom survey. The ship's power is about 4 megawatts. At the time of the attack by the GUR Special Forces, the enemy ship was conducting electronic reconnaissance and patrolling the approaches to the Nova Rosisk Bay, where the aggressor had registered the remnants of its Black Sea Fleet. This is a reference to the fact that Russia has recently been forced to reposition much of its Black Sea Fleet in seemingly safer areas, like the waters of Nova Rosisk, rather than in and around the Crimean Peninsula. Ukraine has launched numerous successful attacks on targets in Crimea recently, taking out expensive radars, blowing up airfield bunkers and more, weakening Russia's position in the area bit by bit. The Ukrainian armed forces have also upped their efforts in terms of targeting Russian naval forces over the last 12 months, dealing numerous direct and devastating hits to ships of various classes and sizes. This is just the latest example of those kinds of attacks, and it's a particularly significant one for two big reasons. Firstly, each MPS Buouyan-M multi-purpose vessel is worth about $60 million, and Ukraine disabled it with a single drone worth much less. This is exactly what happens on a very regular basis in Ukraine's many other attacks. They use relatively cheap and simple weapons to deal millions, or sometimes even billions of dollars of damage to Russian targets, getting a whole lot of literal bang for their buck every time. And that matters, because war is in many ways about money. It costs an extortionate amount to keep a conflict going, paying for the troops, the training, the weapons, the ammo, the vehicles, and everything in between. It's well documented by this stage that Russia in particular has spent a ludicrous amount of cash over the course of the war, raising its defense budget year after year and investing heavily in procurement and production of weapons, as well as expensive recruitment drives. The Kremlin also had to foot the bills of all the expensive pieces of equipment that Ukraine has taken out in its attacks. That includes aircraft like fighter jets and bombers, tanks, armored vehicles, radar stations, air defense systems, and logistical targets like production plants, oil refineries, pipelines, and storage facilities. The costs have spiraled, and Russia is well and truly paying the price. Its economy is in tatters, its national wealth fund has been slashed, its banks are struggling, and its people are finding life increasingly difficult due to high interest rates and expensive price tags for the everyday essentials they need to survive. Even at the highest level in the Kremlin itself, Putin and his FSB agents are orchestrating an extraordinary purge, which many see as a desperate attempt to claw back some wealth by forcefully taking ownership of the assets of various generals, ministers and oligarchs who are being thrown under the bus and used as scapegoats. That's why, when attacks like this one happen, it's not a mere blip on the Kremlin's radar. It's another huge issue, another gigantic bill to pay, another expensive piece of military equipment wiped off the tactics table, and another gap in the front lines to fill with something else. Even though the vessel wasn't entirely destroyed, it could still cost millions to fix, and the process could take several months, if not longer. During that time, Russia's forces will not be able to deploy this vessel and enjoy the unique and versatile benefits it brings. That wouldn't be a big deal if Russia had plenty more MPS V07 ships to take the place of the one it lost. But it doesn't. Open registries indicate it only has about 5 of these vessels, with one more reportedly in production. And that's the second big reason why this attack matters so much. The Kremlin reportedly only has a very small and limited number of these vessels. According to open registries, Russia has 5 of these vessels, and rumor has it that there is one more in production. The masters of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's GUR struck with a Ukrainian-made combat drone in the area of the control bridge, where in particular the ship's navigation and communication equipment is located. As a result of the strike, the enemy ship's RER equipment was destroyed, and the ship was put out of action for expensive repairs. With only 5 of these vessels available, and one now taken out and likely stuck in a shipyard somewhere for months to come while repair crews fix it up, Russia's recon, salvage and even sabotage capabilities in the Black Sea just took a serious hit. That in turn will make life harder for the Kremlin's forces, while also opening up some potential opportunities for Ukraine. With one less ship defending the Black Sea, Kyiv's army could choose to press its advantage further, launching additional attacks in and around the Nova Rosisk area, perhaps taking out additional Black Sea Fleet vessels in the days and weeks to come. There's no doubt that Kyiv would be capable of this, as it has proven on numerous occasions in recent weeks and months that it has the means and the know-how needed to strike quickly and effectively, not just at Russia's land targets, but its naval assets too. At the end of August, for example, Ukraine pulled off a record-setting attack on another Russian warship. On August 28, the Ukrainian Defense Forces used a long-range FPV drone to strike a Russian Buyan-M corvette in the Azov Sea. The vessel was more than 217 miles away from the drone launch site, which just goes to show how well Ukraine has managed to master drone warfare, to the point that its forces can now pull off these kinds of attacks, which would have seemed impossible only a year or two ago. The Russian vessel was armed with Kalibr cruise missiles, which the Kremlin regularly uses in its frequent bombardments on towns and cities across Ukraine. It was stationed near Temeruk Bay, but was taken out in an instant thanks to the hard work of the GUR working in conjunction with Ukrainian Special Operations Forces. Together, these two teams orchestrated a 2-stage strike on the Project 21631 Buyan-M missile warship. First, one unit wiped out the ship's radar system, which includes both an MP2312 navigation radar and a 5P26M1 positive M1 phased array radar, which is used for detecting any incoming threats or enemy targets in the area. In the blink of an eye, the Buyan ship went from having a state-of-the-art radar complex scanning its surroundings to being effectively blind. The crew on board were left with no way of knowing if any further drones or even missiles were on their way to deal more damage. They were at the complete mercy of the Ukrainian armed forces. And Ukraine wasn't in a particularly merciful mood. It entered the second phase of its attack, with Special Forces soldiers launching additional drones towards the ship's hull, with the intent of dealing as much damage as they possibly could. Video footage shared on Facebook revealed exactly how the strike went down, with Ukraine's defense intelligence writing up a detailed report to accompany the clip. The carrier of the Kalibr was hit. The GUR soldiers hunted down a missile ship of the Buyan-M project in the Sea of Azov. On August 28, 2025, as a result of the joint operation of the Department of Active Operations of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and the Special Unit of the Ministry of Defense Primary in the Sea of Azov near the temporarily occupied Crimea, a small missile ship of the aggressor state of Russia of Project 21631 Buyan-M, a carrier of the Kalibr cruise missiles, was hit. Fighters of the Special Unit of the GUR of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine GOS damaged the ship's radar with an aerial drone strike, and Special Forces of the Department of Active Operations of the GUR of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine attacked the side of the Kalibr carrier. As a result of the strikes, the Russian missile ship, which was in the area of potential launch of Kalibr missiles in Temerutskaya Bay, was damaged and was forced to leave the combat duty area. The arms struggle continues. The ship in question is a relatively impressive piece of hardware. Each one measures 240 feet long with a displacement of around 950 tons and peak speeds of 25 knots or around 29 miles per hour. Buyan-Ms also have a sea endurance of 15 days, so they can spend more than 2 weeks away from port before needing to refuel and resupply, and they have a maximum range of 1,500 nautical miles. As far as weapons go, they carry the aforementioned Kalibr class missiles, with up to 8 on each vessel at any one time, as well as Igla 1M surface-to-air missiles, SAMs, plus an A190 100mm cannon, 2 AK-630M anti-aircraft guns, and multiple machine guns as well. This means they can launch long-range missile strikes at multiple targets, while also defending themselves against air, land or sea-based attacks, with dozens of crew members on board to make the most of the many armaments at their disposal. On top of all of that, Buyan-Ms also come with strong radars, communication systems, navigational tools and other technologies. But none of it worked to stop Ukraine's drones from dealing their damage, and the ship was forced to make a rapid and desperate retreat in the end. This attack bears a lot of similarities to the recent strike on the MPS Buouyan-M vessel. Both were stunning demonstrations of Ukraine's drone warfare capabilities, and both left important and rare vessels in total states of disrepair. Because, just like the MPS Buouyan-M, the Buyan-M was not produced in any sort of large quantity. In fact, only 15 Buyan-class corvettes have been made, with only 12 fitting into the Buyan-M category. So, when Russia loses a single one of those ships, it matters. It weakens the country's naval power projection capabilities, and it makes it harder for the Kremlin to launch its deadly cruise missiles at Ukraine. In other words, it saves lives and prevents widespread destruction in places like Kyiv and other towns and cities. Another successful Ukrainian Black Sea strike was reported on September 5, once more involving the main Directorate of Intelligence, which released footage showing a special operations raid that resulted in the destruction of some Russian military equipment, personnel, and another naval vessel, this time a patrol boat. The attack actually happened in August. It involved multiple drone operations teams from the Department of Active Operations using both FPV drones and strike UAVs to hit multiple Russian targets both on the water and along the coastline. The GUR published a Telegram post with a detailed report of what happened. Enemy boat, radar and occupiers destroyed. Details of the operation of the GUR Special Forces in the Black Sea. Exclusive footage of the Black Sea operation of the Department of Active Operations of the GUR of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, which took place in August 2025. Crews of military intelligence special forces went to sea and successfully attacked targets of the Russian occupation army. As a result of the raid using FPV drones and other combat drones, GUR fighters destroyed the enemy. BL-680 type boat. Radar Harpoon B. Electronic warfare system Grosser. In addition, the masters of the active operations units burned 4 enemy antenna feeder devices and caused losses among the Russian invaders among personnel. To go into a little more detail, the BL-680 boat is a rigid inflatable boat and an original design for the Russian Navy. It can carry up to 12 troops at a time, depending on the configuration, and has numerous uses, like for amphibious landings, patrols along the coastline, logistical support to larger vessels, and so on. It's not necessarily a high-value target like the Buyan-M or MPS Buouyan-M, but every vessel damaged or destroyed is still a win for Ukraine and a loss for Russia. The Harpoon B radar system, meanwhile, is a long-range surface search and targeting system that can also detect some low-flying aerial threats. It's able to resist various electronic warfare countermeasures and provides valuable intelligence via its passive and active radar channels to Russian missile launch systems, making it easier for the Kremlin to hit Ukrainian targets and deal extensive damage. The third core target is the Groza electronic warfare system. It's one of the most common EW tools in the Russian arsenal, typically used for detecting and jamming Ukrainian drones. It can cut off the drone's guidance and control links, effectively severing the connection between a drone and its operator. So the drone is stranded and usually ends up falling to the ground, rather than continuing on to strike its target. Russia deploys various versions of the Groza EW systems in key areas along the front lines to protect troops, trenches, and valuable assets. So many attacks just like this are happening all the time. On September 1st, for example, reports once more emerged from the GUR talking of a successful strike on the Rosisk military airbase in occupied Crimea. The GUR wrote on Telegram, "Two Mi-8s and an enemy ship, GUR fighters continue to strike at the military facilities of the occupiers in Crimea. Another result of the systematic combat work of the Special Forces Unit of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's GUR primary in the territory of temporarily occupied Crimea. Good drones were used to strike the Russian invaders' airbase in Rosisk near Simferopol. Two enemy Mi-8 helicopters were successfully hit. The estimated cost of the decommissioned helicopters is between $20 and $30 million. A disappointing ending also befell a Muscovite military tugboat, probably a Buk 2190, in the Bay of Sevastopol. During an air attack against the invaders on the peninsula, Ukrainian intelligence officers directed a corresponding warhead at the vessel. The raid tug is part of the so-called PDSS, Underwater Sabotage Forces and Means. This is a unit of highly qualified reconnaissance divers for whose training significant financial and time resources are spent, as well as provided with the best equipment. The defeat of the tugboat significantly limits the combat capabilities of the elite Russian unit. Another boat taken out, plus a couple of multi-purpose transport helicopters. Tens of millions of dollars in damage, and a big blow for the Kremlin's war machine, all thanks to a few Ukrainian drones and some exceptional strategic planning. The effects of these attacks all add up, and eventually the cost will be too much for Russia to bear. Because every strike doesn't just damage military hardware, it also impacts the Kremlin's budget, its power projection, its military capabilities, its battle plans, its morale, its confidence, and more. Every strike undermines the idea that Russia is winning this war, and it helps to renew and strengthen Ukraine's resilience, resolve, and belief that it cannot just defend itself, but that it also has the power to strike back and strike hard. And with Ukraine also recently unveiling exciting new missiles like the Long Neptune, Flamingo, and Sapsan, the country's attacks are only set to become more frequent, more devastating, and more of a problem for Russia and its leader Vladimir Putin in the days and weeks ahead. Now, you can learn all about those exciting and innovative new missiles recently added to the Ukrainian arsenal in our recent video, looking in depth at the Long Neptune, nicknamed the Moscow Killer Missile. Alternatively, check out our breakdown of how Ukraine has led the charge to liberate occupied Crimea, kicking the Russians out with one deadly attack after another in its quest to reclaim territory taken over 10 years ago. And finally, be sure to subscribe to our trusted military news channel too, so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the Russia-Ukraine war and other important conflicts around the globe.